Hey guys, welcome back to another rating of Assassin's Creed. I'm here with Post Commodore, my brother again.
Howdy,
And
folks.
last time we talked about Assassin's Creed released in 2007. Now we're going to talk about its sequel. Released in 2009, Assassin's Creed 2 was released on PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Windows, Mac OS X, all that stuff. And this time we're out of the Crusades and we're going into Renaissance Italy. Um, and let me just say, Ezio Auditore. Maybe you'll disagree with me, Commodore. I'm pretty sure that we'll disagree on this. I liked him more than Altair. I definitely felt like he was more interesting to me than Altair. I have a feeling we're going to disagree on that point.
Well, yeah, actually, I agree. You're right.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I love Altair's a special place because he was the first one because I played him in Bloodlines, and my
Right.
first introduction to him was when he was already like he had sort of resolved his morals, and now he was just trying to get to know his wife a little better, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
But Ezio, though, he's just a great character overall, just because he has a sense of humor. He has a personality. He has pretty good morals overall. And he has good character development, not only over the course of he has character development over the course of three separate games, which
Yeah.
Altair, though he does appear in multiple games, unlike most of the other assassins, typically doesn't grow quite as much. He grows a little bit in Revelations, but that's more of him beating some sense into the rest of the Assassin's Order.
But you know what I think is so interesting about Ezio, though, is, when you think about the idea of the Templars often being the ones in power, like they're the ones usually who have all the resources. Ezio had all that. He was a spoiled rich kid. He came from a wealthy banking family. His father owned a lot of land, could often get him out of trouble, but his family were assassins. And he took the route that made him lose his family, lose his title, lose his money. He was not a famous auditore anymore. He was just a renegade, a rogue, a criminal. And so I thought that was more interesting than, I mean, let's face it. At the end of the day, Altair's story was a story of redemption. He was a cocky son of a gun, got too big for his britches, got knocked down to size, had to gain understanding. Here we had a dude who was just a kid. Let's face it. He was basically a cocky teenager or equivalent of.
He was a frat
Picking,
boy.
right. He was picking fights in the street, sleeping around with girls,
Yeah, with a relative of Amerigo Vespucci, no less.
Yeah.
Way to mess up the timeline, lad.
Yeah, and with a sister who was spoiled rotten and a little brother who, just didn't have much
Was born
presence.
to die.
Born to die, yes.
If Rodrigo didn't get to it, Pestilence would have gotten him.
But it's just one of those things where, he had it all. He had a pretty decent life, loses it, gives it up, and willingly gives it up.
Well, he was somewhat kind of forced to it, but there is a choice where he's I could try and reestablish my family in Spain, or I could continue down this assassin's path. And of course, he chooses the fun route.
Well, you know why he chose that fun route. It's because when he met his uncle had to make a Nintendo reference. It's a me, Mario. I swear to God, we lost our minds when we saw that. If y'all haven't played the game, watch that scene specifically. Mario, his uncle Mario Auditore, comes out to greet him and literally greets him with, "You don't recognize me, Ezio? It's a me, Mario."
And if you listen very closely to that scene, you can hear 1,000 Nintendo lawyers start screaming. Copyright.
Sounded like you sounded like Iago from Aladdin there for a second. Oh, this is just terrible.
Yes, fun fact, all Nintendo lawyers must sound like Gilbert Gottfried.
Please stop copywriting our stories and our games.
Well, Ezio and Smash, just stop it.
Now if Mario's a plumber, we're gonna have problems. But anyway, enough jokes. No, we're not done with those. We're gonna make more of them.
It's going to be relentless and merciless.
Exactly. And then we see him grow as an assassin. He gets the cool outfit, his dad's outfit, and he goes throughout Italy, Renaissance Italy, causing problems. But I think one big thing that changed about this was the fact that he upgrades his gear and equipment over time. You kind of got that with Altair. I mean, he got a dagger, he got a sword, he got his throwing knives, he got all that. But in this, we get a lot. We get the poison blade, we get the mini pistol, we get
I love that gun.
I love that gun too. That's such a good gun. You can also use more weapons than just a sword. You can steal weapons from enemies. You can get new kinds of swords. You can with
maces, daggers, war hammers, armor improved. You could change how your outfit looked. There was a lot of customization that could go into it, and I loved how simplistic the customization was. It was like, how do I customize this? You give shop owner money, he gives you goods. It's not you have to go through this hidden passageway to discover your inner self-belief, fight a minotaur, hope you roll the right perception check, and then maybe you'll get it. The only time you have to do that is...
Can we just be honest for a second and say that of all the assassins in the Assassin's Creed world, the Assassin's Creed 2 Ezio, we mean young Ezio, not Brotherhood or
Revelations.
But I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about young Ezio. Had the best style, okay? He just looked awesome. He had a good look. He was trying to win some bitches, okay?
He was. I will argue that I like the design of his cloak and him in Revelations. I think he looks great with the beard and the slick back hair. I thought he looked pretty baller.
Yeah.
I do like he is a total playboy, and arguably there and in Brotherhood too. But
yeah, definitely. But my being that he just had a lot of style, and the customization really helped. I thought that it was very creative how they handled it. But let's talk about something that we didn't really talk about a lot in the last video. Let's talk about one of the other aspects of the game. Taking a break from Ezio, let's talk about Desmond Miles.
Oh boy!
For those of you who don't know, in the game, you're not going through Ezio's life only. You're also going through Desmond Miles, because the idea is the story is taking place maybe in our timeline, technically, and you're following a dude named Desmond Miles who used to be an assassin, ran away from that life because he didn't like it, but it turns out his ancestors go all the way back to Ezio, Altair, and all these others. So the Templars...
He just has the most fascinating family history ever.
Right. So the Templars, now called Abstergo, hunt him down and put him in a machine they call an animus, which is a machine that reads your bloodline and allows you to basically peek back in time and relive your ancestors' lives. And so every now and then you're allowed to get up and out of the animus to walk around. Now in Assassin's Creed 1, Desmond was captured by Abstergo and forced to go through Altair's life in Abstergo. So there wasn't a lot you could do. Here, though, they give Desmond more to do. He can walk around the assassins and talk to some of the other assassins. I think the only thing I liked about that was interacting with the personalities of the other assassins.
Yeah, there was some fun to do with that. I mean, there was a bit of just exposition that was given in the first one when you walked around, which is why we didn't bring it too much in the last video. But in this one, you do get to walk around and sort of talk to them, talk to the people a little bit more, get to understand, what are the modern day assassins up to and doing now?
Pretty much nothing, let's be honest.
Yeah, they harped up more on the bleeding effect too, because there is that time where you're actually Desmond's out of the animus, and then he has that sort of freak out trip where he becomes Altair again, and you basically get to see how the first child is born.
Yeah, that was interesting, I'll be honest.
Which makes me go dang, I kind of want to play Altair again. That was something.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because we're going to be talking about that more as we go further into the games.
Yeah.
But okay, so back to Ezio's story. We also get, in my opinion, one of the coolest villains in game.
Oh, absolutely.
Rodrigo Borgia. Now, he was a real character. He was a real pope. But the way they play him out in this, he's very, very interesting. I know you love him.
I think he's probably the best Assassin's Creed villain, and I know a lot of Haytham Kenway fans are going to get very upset with me about that, but objectively, you're wrong. And the thing, I mean, no other villain can really top him as far as just his intellect. I mean, his son kind of come close, but his son is just him, but whinier. And
we'll deal with that next game. We'll deal with that next game.
Yeah, but Rodrigo, I like him because he has a better grasp of the situation of what's going on. He knows how to handle things better. Like, keep in mind, when you wipe out the first family that you go against, the Pazzi, and then you go to Venice, Rodrigo's talking with his new allies, and they're going, "Oh, don't worry, we're not going to fail like the Pazzis. Those guys were a bunch of schmucks. They couldn't." And Rodrigo cuts him off, and goes, "No, they were a very capable family that was destroyed by one assassin. I don't want to see that happen to you guys. So watch yourselves." He recognizes and respects his enemies.
Forgive me, Maestro, but is this not perhaps a tad dangerous for you? Involving yourself so intimately with the minutiae of our plans.
I feel the need to involve myself more directly. The Pazzi disappointed us in Firenze. I pray you will not do the same.
Do not worry this time. The Pazzi were a bunch of foolish...
The Pazzis were a potent and venerable family, reduced to rubble by one young assassin. Do not underestimate this troublesome foe, who now haunts your city. Or the same fate will befall the Barbarico. I want this done promptly.
He understands what needs to be done. That's why he targeted Ezio's family in the first place. He understood what was up. He was excellent at intrigue. You know, he had to be, because he became Pope. And the only failing that it came is like the final confrontation, where you're basically doing a fist fight in the bottom of the Vatican. I'm just going, this is kind of lackluster, but...
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. The ending of his actions and ending of his story in Assassin's Creed 2 was kind of not what I wanted it to be. But hey, it was still... He was still a good villain for the rest of the time.
Yeah, seeing him on screen was really fun. But another reason I really like him is, this is a personal reason for me. He looks like one of my old youth ministers. And so and seeing him becomes like, you converted to Catholicism?
Are you talking about Bart?
I am talking about Bart.
Oh my gosh, I see it now. I never thought about it, but I see it now.
And I could just, like, every time I would go and, like, when I was in high school and I'd go and I'd see him, he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" And I'm just like, "What'd you plan this time, man? What are you doing?"
I also liked I like Leonardo. You know, it's a little weird to say. What I liked about this game is they were very creative about how they set up how you upgraded your gear. They had you go to Leonardo da Vinci to make it all for you. And he was such a flamboyant character, but very fun, you know?
Well, the thing is, that's really cool, because typically when you see Leonardo, you see, like, the old man Leonardo from the paintings. And this we get to see young, fun Leonardo, which is great, because Leonardo da Vinci was many things. Like, he didn't just design stuff and paint. He was an architect. He was a party planner. He did just so much, and such a fun guy in the fact that he's basically your Q from the James Bond series. Like, he's basically the guy that makes all your stuff. You're just going...
Yeah.
And except for the people that really don't understand history until they played the game, then they're going, "Why is this guy named after a turtle?"
Okay, so we've talked about the story, and let's talk about the next aspect, historical accuracy. Do you think that this game is historically accurate?
For the most part, I would actually say it's pretty accurate. Now, the one thing that they might is, like, the conflict between the Medici and the Pazzi. They obviously had to go pro Medici because they're the ones that won, and so they sort of had to ally themselves with that fact and choose the Pazzi to be the bad guys. Similar case when they were dealing with Venice and the family that's there. And also, of course, Rodrigo was not a good pope. I think even the Catholics are going to go, "Yeah, he's not one we look back on and go, yeah, he was."
Well, to be fair, they don't play him up to be a good pope in the game.
I know, but the thing is, they had to sort of up the ante with how much of a monster he was for the sake. And the thing is, I'm going to allow it because I like what you did with it.
Yeah, but yeah, I think you're right, and obviously in this game they kind of have to pick sides. You know, that's kind of the nature of it.
Yeah,
and I agree. I think most of it is pretty historical.
Yeah, most of it,
but for the most part.
Most changes for the story, I think, weren't too large enough to cause a big issue. And then there, of course, are some changes that have to do with mechanics, like you couldn't actually go to a plague doctor, buy medicine that would cure you that quickly. I'm sorry, that's just the nature of the beast.
Right. Okay. The other thing that the other thing that we need to talk about, obviously, is game mechanics. Do you think that this game improved all the right things? I would say yes. Personally.
Yes, absolutely. It improved pretty much every single thing from the first one. Combat was much clearer, more fluid. The only problem that people really had with the combat from the early Assassin's Creed, like the Ezio trilogy, they said that combat was too easy. That's the only problem they have with it.
I can see that.
There's a bit of that, and I would argue it gets sort of levels out when you get more heavy armored opponents, and you sort of have to be creative with how you do it. And I would just whip out the hidden blades and do that and get around the armor.
I would say Brotherhood was where it got a little bit trickier.
Brotherhood had its own trick, but the thing is with we'll talk about Brotherhood later.
Yeah, we'll talk about Brotherhood later.
But with it, I think it was just the combat was, and some say the combat was too easy. And you know what? Go play Dark Souls. For those of us that are actually like, we're here for a good time. This is a fun thing to do. And you know what? Sometimes you had a rough day at school, you had a rough day at work, and you wanted to go home, and you wanted to like just decimate an entire town population of guards, because if you kill like 3 innocent civilians, you get desynchronized. So
whatever, you can't side with chaos on this one.
Yeah, but the thing is, there was a way around it. You could kill 2 and then kill a guard, and then you could kill 2 more innocent civilians. Not that I did. No, I was completely innocent of that. I never killed any civilians intentionally. No, absolutely not.
Sure you didn't. Okay,
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I also think that aside from just combat, you could swim now. I felt that the parkour animations were a lot more fun and a lot more interesting.
You could still get stuck. It wasn't as bad as some later games, but there were places where you would get you would go like, okay, jump up and grab that, jump up and grab that, jump up, and he just jumped off the building. Why would you do that?
Why would you do this?
Just get back up, Ezio, bad Ezio. I remember there were times I would get so frustrated with him climbing, like, fine, jump off and die. See if I can. I did care though.
We did care. We had to care. Someone has to.
Yeah, but it's like the combat might have been easy. Climbing, not always. No.
Now they also added something new to this. This is where they started doing the legendary armor, you had to get the armor of Altair, which I thought was funny because first of all, we never saw Altair wearing that armor.
Well, secondly, I imagine like they took like the plate out of it, but then they put it into new cloth, because I imagine the cloth itself would have deteriorated after like 300 years.
Probably, but my point being, to get it, you had to go through certain tombs and find different things from different assassins, and that was the first time the game had done that, and I thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah, it was kind of fun, and the thing is, I said earlier, it's like for most customizations, you don't have to go jump around and go through the Sidon dungeon. This is the one exception, but the thing is, you need this one thing to finish the game, so I'm going to allow it. Not to mention, a lot of the tombs actually were kind of fun. Only one I recall that really just absolutely irritated me, and that was the one in Venice where you had to like jump around the underground sewer system.
Yeah, but what I was going to say was I think that this was the start of, adding a lot more side missions for the game, which made the game feel like it lasted longer.
Yeah, it wasn't just, it wasn't just go do main quest, get done with. There were side things you could do in Assassin's Creed 1, but they really weren't all that exciting. Whereas in 2, there are several times where you go, dude, it's my turn. I'm like, but I was just doing side quests. I need to finish the main quest. You're like, yeah, I'd pull that same trick too. Get off.
Right. But anyway, so since we've talked about all that, let's go ahead and decide now. What grade would you give Assassin's Creed 2 2009?
A+.
A+? You know what? I'm not even going to contradict. I have to agree. Assassin's Creed 2 was probably my favorite game for a long time. It gets everything right that we want it to. It stays really historically accurate while still taking a few liberties. It updates the mechanics in all the best ways. It's beautiful to look at. Very creative characters. Storyline is awesome.
Has great replayability. It's just
that too.
It's a lot of fun, and it's so successful because instead of just jumping to 3. They decided, hey, let's give this guy 2 more games.
Yeah, they wanted to keep going with him, which is great. I love it.
Any other time you see, like Ezio will pop up in other mediums outside of it. It was like Ezio cameoed in Soul Calibur.
Yeah, they wanted to do a lot with him. So
yeah, you know who other people that have cameoed in Soul Calibur? Yoda and Darth Vader.
Also Witcher from Geralt from...
Yeah, he's the new guy, but you better believe Ezio and Witcher would have gone along like bros. Probably. You can't tell me they wouldn't.
Probably. And also, let's be honest, Assassin's Creed 2's biggest claim to fame was teaching us noobs some Italian. Let's be honest here.
Yes, merde. But mostly the curse words. But
mostly the curse words.
Actually, merde is more of French. But there's only one thing negative about it, in my opinion. Only one.
What's that?
The ending when basically the Isu lady comes out and goes, this is where basically the narrative, this like Ubisoft takes the narrative, sets it down ever so gently, grabs a sledgehammer and beats it into oblivion, because it's at this point where the games go deviate from Templars are the main threat to the sun is the main threat.
Well, to be fair, okay, so my thing, and we're going to talk about this more when we get into stuff like Assassin's Creed Revelations and Assassin's Creed 3, where this shit really hits the fan. I want to say this about that. The minute we saw her show up, even when I first played the game, I immediately thought to myself, okay, you've jumped the shark, game. You were doing so well. Then this moment, I try to block that moment out of my mind. But yes, when I think it was Minerva, whoever she was, she shows up. And here's what's weird. She isn't talking to Ezio when he goes into the vault inside the papal church. Stupid. Anyway, she's not talking to Ezio. She's talking to Desmond through Ezio, because somehow they had such omnipotent ability to do this that she could just do it. And I'm like, okay, you have that kind of omnipotence, but you can't figure out how to fix your sun problem.
Yeah, it's like omnipotent technology that designs omnipotent prediction details or sunblock. Man, all we got is SPF 20, man. I don't think we can cover it, dude. We'll talk when we get to when we get to 3, we'll talk more about like their absolute insanity of just Ubisoft going, we dug ourselves into a hole, how do we get out of it?
This is so stupid.
How dumb.
Yeah. Again, that aside, A+. I love
it. A+ all the way. It's kind of like somebody turns in like a well-crafted essay that just blows it out of the park, but they have a little PS at the bottom that makes no sense. And
you want to know? You want to know how we know that? I think even the developers knew that was a pointless thing, because at the very beginning of Brotherhood, Ezio mentions this to Mario and straight up says, "Well, we don't need to worry about it." And they don't talk about it again for the next 2 games.
Well, most people that play Assassin's Creed are kind of like, in regards to the Isu and whatever happens outside of the Animus, we don't care.
We don't.
We are here to shiv Templars. That is what makes the series go round. Not, we have to stop the sun. Like, yes, put Altair in a spaceship. He's going to go extinguish the sun.
All right, we're going to stop there. Thank you guys for listening. This has been Assassin's Creed 2 Graded, and we both agreed A+. We'll see you in the next one.